So in your syllabus, under specific investment decision, we have asset replacement decision, we have lease, and the hire purchase. So those are the two topics that are embedded in the specific investment decision. So they are very straightforward and an interesting kind of a topic. It's not something that is difficult to understand. However, let's take our time to explain the concepts and then begin to solve questions. Okay, and the good thing about this is that most of you have done this. You have done asset replacement when you are at skills level under performance management, except those that jump fence, those from Makati. So even at that, in school, you did it. But in any case, just assume zero knowledge. And yes, when a company purchases a new non-current asset, say for example, motor vehicle, okay? A company purchased a new motor vehicle, and this motor vehicle is intended to be used for the purpose of distributing goods for the company. So, of course, when the asset is newly bought, the operating efficiency of the asset, the working condition of the asset will still be very high, you know. In fact, at that point in time, the company will barely spend money to maintain the motor vehicle. And then, of course, if the company decides to dispose of the motor vehicle at that point in time, it will command high value. Therefore, when you talk about asset replacement, the key thing that management wants to know or want to do is to ascertain or determine when and how should the non-current assets, okay, when and how should the assets employed to produce goods or render services should be replaced at a later future date. So company wants to know when and how should they replace an existing asset. That is basically what we want to discuss tonight. Therefore, when it comes to replacement decision, is the process of determining the optimal replacement strategy that an organization should adopt for the purpose of the assets that are employed to produce goods or to render services for the organization. The problem is how and when should the asset be replaced? This is because when an asset is newly bought, its working condition, its operating efficiency, as well as the resale value will be considerably high, while the maintenance cost will be relatively low. However, as replacement is deferred into the future, the asset may become problematic to maintain. That is, the maintenance cost will be very high, while the operating efficiency and the resale value will drop significantly due to regular usage of that asset. Therefore, company must establish a policy, replacement strategy, or a policy that would dictate how non-current assets employed for the production of goods or services within the organization should be replaced at a later future date. So that is the background of asset replacement decision. What are the types of replacements? Basically, there are two types of replacements of an asset. We have identical replacements. There's also non-identical replacements. When an asset with similar characteristics is replaced with a new one. That is what is called identical replacement. It is assumed that the identical assets will generate the same cash flows. For example, when you want to replace a motor vehicle, say Toyota Corolla, a company is using Toyota Corolla presently, and that Toyota Corolla is old and need replacements. Then you now buy a similar Toyota Corolla. That is what is called identical replacements. But if a company is using Toyota Corolla right now want to change the motor vehicle, you now go and buy bus. Okay, now go and buy a bus or a bus wagon, whatever. You can see Toyota Corolla and a wagon is not the same thing. That is non-identical replacement. Therefore, when an existing asset is replaced with a different one, that is what is called non-identical replacement. Okay, now, what are the classification or categories of assets? There are basically two classification of assets, including assets that face suddenly, and two, assets that face gradually. For the assets that face suddenly, they are assets with insignificant costs. For example, assets such as light bulbs, tire or tube of a tire. These are assets with immaterial costs, but the consequential effect of the failure is what the company wants to guide against. Imagine having a VIP meeting in your office, and all of a sudden, the light just went off and everywhere is blackout. It's an embarrassment to the management. You wouldn't want that to happen. Imagine driving on the expressway and all of a sudden, the tire just burst. You can imagine what could happen, the consequential effect of that failure. And that is why you need to determine what is the lifespan of those assets with insignificant cost in order to guide against the occurrence of failure. Those are assets that fail suddenly. The second one is the asset that fails gradually. These are non-current assets, such as motor vehicle, plant and equipment, machineries. All these assets, they deteriorate with time due to gradual failure or wear and tear or usage of the assets. The non-current assets generally are employed to generate revenue for the organization. Therefore, irrespective of the category of the asset that the company has within the organization, it is important to formulate the strategy, like I mentioned earlier today, that will prevent the failure from happening. So it is important for the company to determine the optimal replacement strategy to be adopted for any kind of assets that the company employed within the organization. Now, I will not dwell too much on the theoretical aspect of this. Again, you have this note. Please go and read about the key assumptions of replacements. Okay, read the key assumptions of replacement. They are straightforward. Then read about the determinants. Okay, read about the determinants or criteria or factors to be considered in replacement decision. Then read about the limitation as well. Okay, read about the limitation. So you can form a short note on that. Okay, so now let's talk about reasons for replacements. Okay, let's talk about reasons for replacements. There are three key reasons for replacing an existing asset. The first one is the age of the assets. Two is the working condition. Then three, new technology. Now, for the age, when an asset is aged and becoming worn out, it is important for the company to replace the assets at that point in time, because once an asset is aged, it may become problematic to maintain or to run and function properly as intended. This is because as the asset gets older, it will become more expensive to maintain and operate. The assets will then begin to lower the quality of the products. It can also decrease production. It can lower productivity and result in increased labor and maintenance costs. Once an asset is old, the company will be spending money to maintain the asset, to keep it in a good shape for the purpose of producing goods or to render service. And that is why when you go to some companies' generator house, when you enter the generator room, you will see that when you look at the floor of that generator room, you see everywhere black, oily, because the company has spent so much money to be changing oil every now and then. The asset is already, the generator is already old. And of course, they have to keep maintaining it so that it can service the company. So once an asset is old, it will become problematic to maintain. And that's why when you are driving on the highway or on the streets, you will notice that you see some vehicles that are very smoky. In fact, some even break down along the road. I'm calling people to come and help to push. That asset did not just break down that day. It has been given signs of failure. Please come and change me. And the owner is saying that, please, I don't have the means now to change you. Let me continue to maintain you. So it is better once you notice that an asset is old, once the asset has outlived its useful life, you have to change it. The second one is operating efficiency. The operating efficiency is the same thing as the working condition of the assets and is an important element in replacement decision or in the replacement of an existing asset. So when an asset is getting old, it may become smoky or noisy. In fact, the assets will be constituting nuisance by generating pollution or what we call negative externality to the business environment. You can imagine putting on a generator and everywhere is noise and smoke. Your neighbor will not have peace as a result of that. You want to enjoy the generator. Meanwhile, you are constituting nuisance to the neighborhood because of the noise emanating from the noise and smoke emanating from your generator. That's negative externality. So Once the operating efficiency of an asset has declined significantly, then it is better for the company to replace the asset. Otherwise, the assets may cause unpleasant condition. It may cause injury for the person for the workers that are operating the assets. It can even pollute the environment, like I mentioned, through smoke or noise. So once the operating efficiency, the working condition of the assets has fallen below the expected, then it's important for the company to replace the assets. The third one is technology. Technology is also an important element in the decision on whether to replace an asset or not, especially when a new technology is in town. When a new asset that can produce high quality products, okay, and with high volume, then it is important for the company to replace the existing one with a more advanced model that have improved capability. Because if the company fails to replace it when the new technology is in town, the company may become laggard, especially if your competitors are already using the new technology. So these are some of the reasons for replacement of an asset. Let's talk about methods of determining optimal replacement strategy. There are 3 methods of determining optimal replacement strategy, including annual equivalent value or cost method, lowest common multiple method, and finite horizon. Okay? The finite horizon is not part of your syllabus, and it is used when there are inflation. When you have inflation, the best method to use is finite horizon. And mostly, it has been condemned. It's no more in use. Okay? However, any of the 3 methods that you use to determine the optimal replacement strategy will produce the same results. Therefore, when you want to determine the optimal replacement strategy, I will advise always use the annual equivalent value or cost method. That is more straightforward and easy to understand and consistent with what you know already. Therefore, when you want to calculate or when you want to determine the replacement cycle using annual equivalent value or cost, there are basically 3 methods or 4 methods, steps you are supposed to carry out. There are basically 3 steps you are supposed to carry out. Step 1 is to compute NPV of each replacement cycle. You compute NPV for each replacement cycle, take into consideration that the cash inflow, the benefits associated with the assets, including the cash outflows, for example, the maintenance cost, should be cumulative of other years. That is, it should be repeated. For example, if in the question you have something like selling price, variable cost, it's expected that you are going to calculate contribution. That contribution is a benefit, it's a cash inflow. Of course, the asset will also incur some maintenance cost. Therefore, instead of you to have contribution separate, maintenance cost separate, since the two of them will be affected with the same discount factor, so it is important to just go ahead and calculate net cash flow. Therefore, it is only the net cash flow that you are going to discount to get your NPV. The only cash flow that you are not going to accumulate or repeat subsequently is the scrap value. The scrap value is specific for a particular year, so it's not cumulative. Step 2, you calculate annual equivalent value or cost. You calculate annual equivalent value or cost. The annual equivalent value or cost is simply the ratio of NPV to the annuity factor for each replacement cycle. Okay, so after you have computed your NPV, just divide it by the annuity factor. That will give you the annual equivalent value or cost. Of course, if your NPVs are positive, it will be annual equivalent value. But if your NPV is negative, it will be annual equivalent cost. Okay? Then the third step is for you to determine or you select the cycle with the highest annual equivalent value or the lowest annual equivalent cost. The third step, like I said, you need to advise on when the company should replace the assets. To do this, if it's a positive NPV, of course, that will be annual equivalent value. You then select the highest of the annual equivalent value. You trace it to the left where you have number of years. If it is a negative NPV, that will produce annual equivalent cost. Then you select the lowest annual equivalent cost. Again, trace it to the left where you have number of years, and that will be your advice. Okay, so these are the things you need to take into consideration whenever you want to determine a replacement strategy to be adopted. So at this point, without wasting more time, let's have illustrations. I will stop sharing this and move to the working notes. Okay, and before that, let me know if you have any question. Let me know if you have any question for me. Okay. All right then, so let's have this illustration. I can solve 2 illustrations, that will be okay. Yes, who will help us to read? Somebody should help us to read.
Telemundo PLC.
Thank you.
Is a manufacturing company trading in Brazil, a country in which there have been virtually no inflation for many years, and in which none is expected in the future. The company produces a wide range of products, one of which is the Samba, which requires the use of a special machine. The company's present policy is to replace each machine at the end of its physical productive life of 4 years. The directors are now considering whether to replace the machine more frequently than once every 4 years, in view of the fact that its productive capacity declines as it gets older and potential sales of Samba are lost. There is insufficient demand for the company's Samba to justify the purchase of a second machine. So Telemundo PLC charges the selling price of 12 kobo per Samba, at which price it is able to sell up to 500,000 per annum. Variable cost, excluding machine depreciation and running cost, amounted to 4 kobo per Samba. So details of the productive capacities and running costs, including maintenance of the machine, are given below. So, okay, annual running costs are independent of the number of samba produced. The directors wish to continue their present policy of always buying new machines at a price of 60,000 naira each. Trading value of the machines are 40,000 naira for 1-year-old machine, 25,000 for 2-year-old machine, 10,000 for 3-year-old machine, and no value for 4-year-old machine. The company provides depreciation on all its assets using the straight line method. All costs and revenue are paid or received in cash at the end of the year to which they relate, with the exception of the initial price of the machine, which is paid immediately on purchase. Telemindo PLC has an annual cost of capital of 10%. You are required to determine the optimum replacement strategy for Telemindo PLC. Ignore taxation.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Yeah, you can see for the requirement, examiner is asking you to determine the optimum replacement strategy for Telemundo PLC. So you want to determine the replacement cycle that the company should adopt. Therefore, what are you supposed to do? Without wasting more time, let me stop sharing this and move to the working notes. Okay. So, solution to illustration 1. Telemundo PLC. We want to determine optimal replacement strategy. Determining optimal replacements strategy. That's what the examiner wants us to do. Like I said, there are 3 procedures using annual equivalent value or cost. 3 procedures. The first procedure is to calculate NPV of each replacement cycle. The useful life of this asset is 4 years. That means there will be 4 replacement cycles. Therefore, I will say replace every year. If you replace the asset every year, what will be the NPV? So let's do it. Create a column for year. Description of items. Cash flow. Discount factor at 10%. Then the present value. Year 0. These assets will be replaced in year 1 for 1 year. To be replaced every year. I will then go to the question, am I given scrap value? Yes. Examiner has told us that trading value of the machines are 40,000 for year 1 old, for 1 year old. So I will have trading value there. So here is initial outlay. I will have net cash flow here. Then I will have trading value. So I will then go to the question, what's the initial outlay of the machine? Examiner has told you that in the paragraph after the table, examiner told you that the directors wish to continue their present policy of always buying new machines at a price of 60,000 naira each. So the initial outlay is 60,000 naira. Multiply by 1, that will give us 60,000. So we need to go and determine net cash flow. Okay, so this would be for year 1 replacement, year 2 replacement, maybe year 3, then year 4. So let our working come to top page. So if in a question you are given selling price and variable cost, you are expected to calculate contribution. Like I explained earlier on, you don't just go ahead and be doing inflows and outflows. It will make you, by the time you get to the third year or the fourth year, it will be too cumbersome. So it's important for you to calculate net cash flow instead of using contribution and then replacement and then the maintenance cost. Always use the net cash flow. So for me to get my net cash flow, I need to first of all calculate total contribution, total annual contribution. So contribution is selling price minus variable cost per unit. So according to the question, selling price is 12 kobo and the variable cost is 4 kobo. Therefore, here is 12 kobo minus 4 kobo. So contribution per unit of samba is 8 kobo. Then I need to get total contribution. Total contribution. Create a column for year. The volume of the samba. Then contribution per unit. Total contribution. If I like, I can do everything on a table. I will just include another column for maintenance cost or running cost. Then I will get my net cash flow. Okay, so let's do that together. It will save time. Total contribution and net cash flow. NCF. So in this case, I will then create a column. I will go to the question, am I given maintenance cost or running cost? Examiner says running cost. So I will then create a column for running cost. Let me shorten it. Cost of space, running cost, then net cash flow. That's it. Year 1, year 2, year 3, then year 4. What are the units of samba? For the first year, productive capacity of samba is 500, 500, 400, 400. 500, 500, 400, another 400. Then contribution per unit is 8 kobo. Then to get the total contribution, just multiply. This should give us 40,000 naira, 32,000. Then I will then go back to the question, what's the running cost? Examiner has told us year 1, running cost is 6,000, 6,500. Sorry. It's the issue I told you earlier on. You have to manage. Bear with me tonight. Okay? So the running costs in the first year is 6,000. Here is 6,000. 6,500. Year 3, 7,500, 9,000. So to get the net cash flow, the total contribution minus the running cost. Total contribution minus the running cost. Therefore, this will be 34,000, 33,500. I think this will be 20. Is it 24,500? 23, let me use calculator. 32,000 minus 75, 24,500. Then here will be 23,000. Okay, 32 minus 9,000. That's 23,000. So it is this net cash flow that you are going to use to compute your NPV. So I'll save time. Instead of me to use total contribution for each year, I will also use running costs for each year. So it will be too cumbersome. One column for contribution, another column for running costs. It will be too cumbersome. So it's better for you to, since they are affected with the same discount factor. So just calculate the net cash flow and you are good to go. So with this, I can then go up there. I will need to go and calculate NPV for year one. So here is 34,000. 34, let me confirm again. Yes, 34. So 34,000. Then trading value, scrap value for year one. Examiner has told us that trading value of the machine are 40,000 for 1 year old machine. 40,000. So cash inflow. Then discount factor. So 909. So let's get the present value. So 34,000.
I'm sorry, sir. Please, how did you get the 0.909?
Is discount factor for year one. Okay. Hope you understand the formula for calculating discount factor.
Okay. So, no, I don't know the formula actually.
1 plus R raised to power minus N. Are you familiar with this formula?
Okay, I've
So
seen
this
it
will,
before. All right, so
this will give you 1.1 raised to power minus 1. So that will give you 0.909. Okay? Do you get it now?
yes, I get it now.
Okay then. Okay. Then 40,000.
36,360.
33.
36,360.
Okay. 36.
360.
360. So you get your NPV. So that would be 7,266. That's the NPV of year one replacement. So I will then move to, I will say replace every 2 years. So you can put NPV on that basis. Year zero, year item, cash flow, discount factor at 10%, present value. Year zero, year one, year two, year two. Remember what I told you. You are going to be accumulating the cash inflows. All the net cash flow, you are going to be accumulating it. The only thing you don't accumulate is the is the scrap value, which is specific for a particular year. So initial outlay, net cash flow, then trading value. Year 0, 60,000 is the initial outlay of the project, multiplied by 1, that's 60,000. Net cash flow of year 1 is 34,000 at discount factor of 0.909. This produced 30,906. Then in year 2, our cash inflow, our net cash flow for year 2 is 33,500. 33,500. So here is if I'm able to solve 2 tonight, I'll be fine because of this network glitches. It's really frustrating. Okay, 33,500 is the net cash flow for year 2. So discount factor at 10% for year 2 is 0.826. So scrap value for year 2, we are told that the trading value is 25,000 naira for year 2, old machine, 25,000. 0.826. To get the present value, just multiply 33,500 multiplied by 0.826. 826 equal 27671. Then 25,000 multiplied by 0.826. 2650. So get your NPV. So plus 27,671 plus, oh, a mistake there. Let me redo it. 2650 plus 27,671 plus 30,906 equal, then minus 60,000 equal 17,19,227. I will go to year 3. Replace every 3 years. And this one accommodates, I doubt. That space, how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will be too short. And this at least 7. Okay. That means replace every 3 years. Here, item, cash flow, then PV. Here, 0, 1, 2, 3. Let me manage here. Another 3. Okay. The initial outlay. This is the kind of service we are paying for here in Nigeria as well. So, net cash flow, net cash flow, net cash flow, then trading value. Initial outlay is 60,000. The net cash flow of year one is 34,000. Year two is 33,500. Then the net cash flow of year three is 24,500. Let me confirm. Yes, 24,500. Therefore, then trading value of year four, sorry, of year three, we are told that 10,000 naira for 3-year-old machine. So 3 years is 10,000 trading value. So here is 1.909 826 751. Okay. There is 60,000 cash outflow. Here is 3906. You can see that we are repeating the net cash flow of year one, year two. So that's how you continue to do. 27,671. Then 24,500 multiplied by 0.751. 751 equal 18.4. Then here will be 7,510 MPV. So 7,510 plus 18,400 plus 27,671 plus 3906 equal minus 60,000 equal 24,487. Okay. Then the last one, replace, because the useful life of this machine is 4 years. So replace every replace every 4 years. Okay. Then PV. Year 0, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. We are told in year 4 there is no trading value. No trading value for year 4. Net cash flow. Net cash flow. Here is 60,000. Here is 34,000. Here is 24. $33,500. $24,000. Then 24,500. then 23,000. 1.906, 909. Okay. 826, 751, 683. So let's multiply 60,000. We got 3906. Next one is 27,671. The third year PV is 18,400. Then the last one, 23,000 multiplied by 0.683 equal 15,709. Final answer, NPV plus 18,400 plus 27,671 plus 3906 equal minus 60,000 equal 32,686. So we have computed NPV for each circle. So the next thing we want to do so annual equivalent value, because all our NPVs are positive. Therefore, we are supposed to calculate annual equivalent value. Somebody will ask, is it possible to have positive and negative NPV? No, it is either positive or negative. You can't have the mix, you cannot have the mix of positive and negative NPV because the examiner has a target. If the examiner wants you to calculate annual equivalent value, the question will be designed in such a way that all your NPV will be positive. If they want you to calculate annual equivalent cost, they will design it in such a way that you are going to have negative NPV all throughout. Therefore, your annual equivalent value or cost is calculated as NPV divided by the so create a column for working, then annual equivalent value for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So we are going to divide NPV with the annuity factor of each year. So NPV of year 1, we got 7,266. 7,266 is the NPV of year 1. NPV of year 2 is 19,227. Year 3 NPV is 24,487. And the last NPV is 32,686. So the annuity factor of year 1 is still the same thing, divide by 0.909. Annuity factor of year 2, 1.736. Annuity factor of year 3 at 10% is 2.487. Annuity factor of year 4 is 3.170. Somebody will ask me, how did I get my annuity factor? It's simple. Annuity factor AF is calculated as 1 minus 1 plus R raised to power minus N. At this level, I expected that you already know this. So for example, if I want to calculate annuity factor for year 2, I will just say 1 minus the cost of capital R is 10%. So okay, raised to power minus 2, we are calculating for year 2. Annuity factor of year 1 to 2, so 0.1. So this will give me 1.7, okay, 36. That's how I got it. All right. So bring out your calculator. Let me do for the last one, which is divide by 3.17 equal 10,311. Here is 10,311. Then for year 3, 24487 divide by 2.487 equal 9846. Then year 2, 19,227 divided by 1.736 equal 11,075. Then year 1, 7,266 divided by 0.909 equal 7,993. So we have computed our annual equivalent value. Therefore, if it is annual equivalent value, you are expected to select the highest AEV. So when you look at from year 1 to year 4, the highest annual equivalent value is 11,075 naira. Therefore, the machine should be replaced every 2 years. I would then say the machine should be replaced every 2 years, considering the highest annual equivalent value of 11,075 naira. That's it. That's the end of the question. You can see it's very straightforward. Very straightforward. Let me know if you have any question on this so that we can have, let's have one more illustration. You can see we have unstable network here. I have unstable network here. So let me know if you have any question on this. If not,
let's go into the working part.
who is speaking?
Lenny, actually.
What did you say?
Can you please scroll down to the working part?
Oh, okay. This one?
Yes. Thank you.
This is really frustrating. Are you done copying? The search you scroll down. So I want to know. Okay. So let's have another illustration, please. Manage tonight's class. Let's solve this illustration about 2. Yes, I need somebody to read for us, please. Somebody should read illustration number 2. Yes? Who will help us?
Kafanchan PLC is a second-tier listed company that specializes in the business of manufacturing nails of various sizes. Its factory is sited near one of the federal government-owned steel manufacturing companies in the southwest axis. It enjoys proximity advantage to the source of its raw materials, which are mainly iron coils from the government parastatal. For several years, the company enjoyed uninterrupted production runs, which enabled it to record steady growth in its annual profits. In recent times, the company has been experiencing downturn in its economic activities. The annual profits were declining, and the situation was becoming worrisome to management. The privatization program of the government was the main cause of the adverse shift in the profits of the company because raw materials became the critical operational constraint. As a result, importation of iron coils became the only option to ensure smooth production. This option was faced with many problems, and the company was finding it difficult to arrest its unfavorable situation. So the company is planning to diversify and add a new product line as part of its survival strategy. The new product is industrial polish. The raw material, which is wax, is a byproduct of petroleum refining. Achievement of the diversification requires initial investments in the acquisition and installation of a polishing machine. The management is considering a choice from 2 alternative machines for which market survey has been carried out. There are only 2 such machines in the market. Both machines fulfill the same function and have the same capacities. All right, so the company cost of capital is 10%. The company is in a tax-free world. You are required to mention 4 problems which Kafanchan PLC is likely to face in the importation of raw materials. Advise the management of Kafanchan PLC on the machine to purchase.
Thank you very much, Jacob. And this is the question. So examiner is asking you in the A part to mention only 4 problems which Kafanchan PLC is likely to face in the importation of raw material. These requirements require that you should internalize this particular requirement. Say, for example, you are an importer. You are an importer of raw material for the production of your goods. Therefore, what are the likely problems that you are going to face in the importation of that raw material? That's what I said. You should internalize it, personalize, make it your own. You are the owner, you are the importer. You want to import raw material from abroad. What are the challenges that you're likely going to face? I need somebody to mention one. Examiner says you should mention 4. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, somebody should give me 1. Yes. What are the challenges? What are the problems we can face in relation to the importation of raw material? Yes.
Transportation cost.
High landing cost.
High landing cost. Yes, it's part of it. Oh, this thing has disappeared again. Okay, still on. So landing costs. Landing cost is the same thing. You can relate that to freight cost or transportation cost. Yes. Second one, if you just put landing cost is not a problem. But when you say high landing cost or high transportation or freight cost, so that's a problem. But if you just say landing cost or freight cost, it doesn't tell anything. Yes. The second one, give it to me.
Foreign exchange volatility.
Pardon?
Government policy.
What did
Foreign
you say,
exchange
Ebis?
volatility.
Yes,
Availability of foreign exchange to
fluctuation.
source materials offshore. The fluctuation.
Hold on, volatility or exchange rate, forex volatility, which is correct. The fluctuation, gyration in exchange rate. So forex volatility.
Trade restrictions.
Trade restriction, okay. Trade restriction, we can say inconsistent government policy. Inconsistent, let me write that. Government policy. Yes. What else? Give me more. There are many of them. What about inflation? Okay, inflation is also part of it because when there's inflation, the purchasing power of money will fall. The amount of the raw material you can buy when there's high inflation will reduce. The number 5, in fact, this number 5 I want to mention is a core one, such that if you don't have it, you can't even contemplate of buying the material, which is insufficient funds.
Yeah, I was going to add something, Mr. Adejomo.
Yes, talk to me.
I was going to say that they're going to have a higher holding cost because they are importing from offshore, so they have to hold more stock to avoid stock outs. So in the cost of keeping a lot of inventory, to cost them more money also.
Yes, you can, instead of that, you can say cost of storage or storage space. Again, you can talk about storage space, insufficient storage space, because the so another one you can talk about is the non-reliability of the supplier. Reliability. If the supplier is not reliable, it can delay your goods for more than expected. You can also talk about lead time. The lead time is the period between when the raw material is being purchased and when the company finally receives the material. Okay, there are so many of
It
them
will
you
be
can
longer.
talk about. You can also talk about demurrage. You can talk about demurrage. You know, demurrage is the cost the importer will pay, okay, at the port for the period the material is in the port. So the longer the goods stay in the port, the longer the more the demurrage that the company will pay on that. So you can talk about the administrative bureaucracy. You know, some of the port officials, they may intentionally delay your goods so that you can pay more money. All right. The goods that are supposed to stay for like 3 days, they can delay more than 3 days so that they can extort you. So they'll just be sending you from one department to another for one documentation or the other. Before you know it, the goods will now be there, spending several days, and it hasn't been cleared. So there are so many problems that importers do face in relation to raw material importation. So that's for that. Then number B, you have to advise the management of Carfachan PSA on the machine to purchase. So you want to purchase a machine, whether machine A or machine B. So this has to be a cost. It's a cash outflow. All right. But when you even look at the cash flows given to you, they are majorly costs apart from the salvage value. Apart from the salvage value, which is 500 and 700 for matching A and B. Every other ones are cost. So which means that we are going to calculate annual equivalent cost. So let me stop sharing this and move to the working notes quickly. So with this, so solution to, let me see if this one can contain. Solution to illustration 2. So examiner is asking you to advise on which of the machines to purchase. Therefore, I would then say calculating annual equivalent cost for matching A, because it's very glaring from the question. The examiner says which of the machines to purchase. When you are purchasing, it has to be a cost, a cash outflow. That's a cost. Therefore, I would then create a column cash flow, discount factor. What's the cost of capital given it 10%? Okay. Then we have the present value. Now, year 0. The cost of matching A, according to the question, is 5 million naira. Here is 5 million. 1, 5 million. Okay. Then, of course, there is no cash inflow apart from the salvage value. But we also have annual running cost, 100,000 naira. So the useful life of matching A is 4 years. And this annual running cost is constant at 100,000 naira. Since my cash outflow of 100,000 running cost is constant, year 1 to 4 is the same amount. Running cost, 100,000. So I will just calculate annuity factor of year 1 to 4. 10%. This will be 3.170. When you multiply, that's 317,000. Then, of course, in the year 4, we are told that there's a salvage value of 500,000 naira. Salvage value, 500,000. It's a cash inflow. Discount factor at year 5, 10%, 0.621. So let's multiply now. 500,000 multiplied by 0.621 equal 310,500. Okay. So add it up plus, sorry, 5153 5317,000. Oh, something is not right. Let me do it again. 5 million plus 317 equal, then minus 310,500. No, something is not right. 1 point.
So I thought the assets, the lifespan of the asset is 4 years, not,
Oh, not 5 years.
no, sir,
Oh,
4 years.
sorry, error of mind. It's true. This one's supposed to be 683. Thank you. Okay. I don't know what I was. So 500,000 multiplied by 0.683 equal 341,500. So final answer, NPV would then be equal to minus 5,317,000. That's 4,975. 4,975,500. So it's a cost. It's a PV of cost. Okay, the present value of the cash outflow is 4,975,500 for matching A. So at this point, I can't just say 4 million. I need to calculate annual equivalent cost for matching A. Therefore, the annual equivalent cost will then be equal to the NPV divided by the annuity factor. Okay, let me write out in full. Okay, so 4,975,500 divided by 3.17 equal 1,569. 1,569, then 588.
Sir, we can see your screen.
So you cannot do what? You can't see my screen?
Yeah, but before, not now.
Oh, okay. So that's for matching A. I will then do for matching B. Calculating annual equivalent cost for matching B. Okay. Description of item. Cash flow. Discount factor as 10%. The useful life of matching B is 7 years. And the initial outlay of matching B is 9 million. Cash outflow, 9 million. Year 1 to 7. Running cost. At year 7, there will be salvage value. The running cost of matching B is 80,000 naira per annum, while the salvage value is 700,000. 80,000 naira per annum, 700,000 salvage value. Okay, so I need to calculate annuity factor of year 1 to 7. 1.1 raised to power 7 minus equal 1 minus 1 equal divided by 0.1 equal 4.868. 4.868. Then, of course, 1.1 raised to power 7 minus equal 0.513. So multiply 80,000 multiplied by 4.868 equal 389,440.
I'm sorry, sir. I just want to
Yep.
confirm, why are we having a different discount factor for the running cost and the salvage value?
Why are we having a different discount factor?
Yes.
You can see that the 80,000 is constant from year 1 to 7. So when you have constant cash flows, you are supposed to calculate the annuity factor. So the 4.868 is an annuity factor. So when you do your discount factor from year 1 to 7 at 10%, when you add it up, you are going to get 4.868. So
Okay.
instead of you to be doing it year by year, so just since it is the same constant cash flows, you just calculate annuity factor. All right.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
700,000 multiplied by 0.513 equal 359,100. So finally, you get your NPV of cost. For matching B, minus 93,89440 equal 90,3340. 90,3340. So that's the PV of cost for matching B. Then you now calculate annual equivalent cost, which is 90,3340 divided by annuity factor of 4.868. So divide by 4.868 equal 1855. 1855041. So then at this point, you need to make a choice. Matching A produce annual equivalent cost of 1,569,000. Just come here. Matching A produced and an annual equivalent cost of 1,569,000. Is it 569? Yeah, 569. 588. Why? Matching B generated an annual equivalent cost of 1,855,041 naira. Therefore, matching A with a lower annual equivalent cost should be purchased. That's end of the question. And that's our advice. machine A should be purchased relative to machine B with a higher cost. Let me know if you have any question. Had it been the network is stable, I would have do one more illustration. But if you can still manage it, you can do the other one, the remaining one, and that will be all. All right. So let's have one more illustration on this so that we can close the class. I want to stop sharing this and move to the next note. The next question. Somebody should read illustration number 3.
AL Limited is a manufacturing company based in Aba. One of its successful products is Adtone, a mortar coloring agent. Adtone is made using a single processing machine, which mixes the raw ingredients and dispenses the completed products into 5-liter cartons. A 5-liter carton of Adtone sells for 300 naira, and the estimated maximum annual demand at this price is 300,000 cartons. At this level of demand, AL can justify the operation of only one processing machine, which AL currently replaces every 3 years, although the processing machine has a productive life of 4 years. In the first year of its life, the processing machine has a productive capacity in line with the maximum annual demand for the product. For each year thereafter, this productivity capacity falls at a rate of 15,000 units per annum. Annual maintenance costs in the first year of operating the processing machine are estimated at 300,000. Thereafter, the directors expect the annual maintenance costs to increase by 50,000 naira per annum, regardless of the actual number of 5 liters carton produced. AL incurs variable costs, excluding depreciation and maintenance costs of 200 naira in producing each 5-liter carton. The company provides for depreciation on all its non-current assets using the straight line method. If the company were to dispose the processing machine after 1 year, the directors expect sales proceeds of 8 million naira, but this could fall by 3 million per annum in each of the following 2 years. Assume the processing machines has 3 years lifespan. So following a recent increase in the cost of processing machine to 12 million, the company's directors are reconsidering their current replacement policy with a view to maximizing the present value of the company's cash flows. It can be assumed that all revenues and costs are received or paid in cash at the end of the year to which they relate, with the exception of the initial price of the processing machine, which is paid in full at the first time of purchase. So required, assuming that the processing machine is used to maximum capacity and showing all of your supporting calculations, advise AL's directors how often they should replace the processing machine. Assume the cost of capital of 10%. B. Itemize the major assumptions in your calculations above.
Thank you very much, Jacob. You have been the one most active in the class today. Thank you once again. So I will stop sharing this so that we can solve the question straight on. So you have to assume that the processing machine is used to maximum capacity and showing all your supporting calculations that then advise the directors of AL how often they should replace the processing machine, 12 marks. So, and then the examiner has told you the useful life of this machine is 4 years. We are told that the machine has a productive life of 4 years. However, examiner mentioned to you that you should assume that the processing machine has 3 years life. So that means you are not going to use 4 years. You are not going to calculate for 4 years. Rather, it will be for 3 years. So you have to watch out. Be careful when you are picking your numbers. That's a salient point. Because if you do for 4 years, you're on your own. That means whatever you do will be wrong because the examiner was specific that you should calculate for 3 years. So I will stop sharing this and move to the working note quickly. Within the next few minutes, we should be done with this. Okay. So solution to illustration 3. AL Limited. Again, we are going to calculate NPV for each replacement cycle, depending on the useful life of the machine. So I will say replace every year. So NPV of year 1 replacements, cash flow. Discount factor, we have to assume 10%, then PV. Year 0, year 1, then year 1. Initial cost of the processing machine, okay? So the initial outlay of the machine, we are told that, where is that information? Yes, in the last paragraph, we are told that following a recent increase in the cost of a processing machine to 12 million naira, the company's director are reconsidering their current replacement policy with a review to maximizing. So the initial outlay, the cost of the processing machine is 12 million naira. So I will come here, 12 million. Okay. Then I need to go and calculate net cash flow. So this would be for year 1, year 2, possibly year 3. So I will do my workings here. In this question, we have selling price. We are given a selling price of 300 naira. We are told that a 5-liter carton of Acton sells for 300 naira, and its estimated maximum annual demand at this price is 300,000 cartons. Okay, selling price is 300. Then how much is variable cost? Where do you have information? Variable cost, we are told that AL incurs variable cost, excluding depreciation and maintenance cost of 200 naira in producing each 5-liter carton. So if that is the case, I need to calculate contribution. Since I'm given selling price, so selling price minus variable cost per unit. So selling price is 300, 200. Therefore, contribution is 100 naira per unit. So I will then calculate total contribution, then net cash flow. So I will just say calculating net cash flow, NCF. So create a column for year, units, contribution per unit, total contribution. Then we have, is it running costs or maintenance costs? We are told that annual maintenance costs in the first year, so we are given maintenance cost.
300.
So maintenance, okay, costs. Then we are going to have net cash flow. Year 1, year 2, year 3. Let's go back to the question. We are told that in the first year of its life, the processing machine has a productive capacity in line with the maximum annual demand for the product. The annual demand for the products is 300,000. So for the first year, it is 300,000. You are now told that, but each year thereafter, this productive capacity fall at a rate of 15,000 units per annum. Therefore, as you are moving to year 2, it will fall by 15,000 units. So this will be 285. 285 minus 15 will give us 270,000. That's number of units. Then contribution per unit is 100 naira. Total contribution is 30 million for the first year, 28,500,000 for the second year, 27 million for the third year. Maintenance costs. Where do you have information on maintenance? Yes, we are told that annual maintenance cost in the first year is annual maintenance
300,000.
costs in the first year of operating the processing machine are estimated at 300,000 naira. Thereafter, the directors expect the annual maintenance cost to decrease by 50,000 per annum, regardless of the actual number of 5-liter cartons produced. So the first year maintenance cost is 300,000. So here will be 300,000. We are now told that it will increase by 50,000 naira every year. So here will be 350, then 400. Therefore, what's the net cash flow? 30 million minus 300,000 will give us 29,700,000. Again, 28 million minus 350,000 will give us 28,150,000. 27 million minus 400,000 will give us 26,600,000. So this is the net cash flow that we are going to use to calculate our NPV. So 27,900 for year 1 cash flow, 29,700. Net cash flow, 29,700,000. So discount factor of year 1, 10%, 0.909. Then we have scrap value. According to the question, the examiner told you that if the company were to dispose of the processing machine after 1 year, the director estimates sales proceed of 8 million naira, but this could fall by 3 million per annum. So the first year sales proceed is 8 million. If they want to dispose of the processing machine in the first year, they are going to earn 8 million. So 0.909. So let's get our NPV. 29,700, sorry, 29,700 multiplied by 0.909 equal, that's 26,997,000, I think 300, yes. Then 8 million multiplied by 0.909 equal 7272. Okay, then you get your NPV plus 26,997,300 equal minus 12 million equal 22,222,69 300. Okay, then I'll go to year 2, replace. Every 2 years. Year, item, cash flow. 10% present value. Year 0, 1, 2, then 2. Net cash flow. Salvage value. 12 million. Net cash flow of year 1 is 29,700,000. Net cash flow of year 2 is 28,150,000. We are told that the scrap value will fall by 3 million naira. The first year salvage value is 8 million. When you less 3 million, it will be 5 million balance. Okay. Then this should be 1.
So sorry, that 28,150,000. Is it 28,150 or 28,250?
28,150. That's what we have. Net cash flow for year 2. 28,150. Okay.
Okay.
All right. 909.826. 826. 12 million. We got 26. 997. 300. Then 28,150,000 multiplied by 0.826 equal 23251. 23251,900. Then 5 million multiplied by 0.826. 4130. So what's our NPV? Plus 23251,900 plus 26,997,300 equal minus 12 million equal 42,379. 42,379,200. Okay, so let's do the last one. Replace every 3 years. Description of item. Discount factor at 10%. Year 0, 1, 2, 3, then 3. Initial outlay. Net cash flow. Then salvage value. 12 million. 29,700,000. 28,150,000. Then net cash flow, that's 26,600,000 for year 3. Then 5 million minus 3 million will give us 2 million for salvage value in year 3. So here is 1. 19092651. So 12 million, 26, 997, 300, then 23, 251,900. Okay. Then year 3, present value 26,600,000 multiplied by 0.751 equal 19,976,600. Then 2 million multiplied by 0.751, 1502. So our NPV would then be equal to plus 19,976,600 plus 23,251,900 plus 26,997,300 equal minus 12 million equal 59,727. 59,727,800. So since we are done with all the cycle, the NPV for each cycle, so at this point we need to calculate annual equivalent value. So annual equivalent value, which is NPV divided by the annuity factor. So we use a table, column for working, then AEV, annual equivalent value. Year 1, year 2, and then year 3. NPV of year 1 is 22,269. 22,269, 300 divided by annuity factor of year 1 at 10%. That's 0.909. NPV of year 2 is 42,379. 42,379, 200 divided by annuity factor of year 1 to 2 at 10%, 1.736. Then NPV of year 3 is 59,727. 59,727, 800. Annuity factor of year 1 to 3 at 10%, 2.487. So what do you have here? Divide by 2.487 equal, that's 24016. 24016, 003. Then 42,379,200 divided by 1.736 equal 2441. 24 million, let me write that. $411,982. Then 22,269, 300 divided by 0.909 equal 24,498. 498
679.
679 98, that's 680. 680. So at the end of the day, you pick the highest number. When you look at the annual equivalent value computed, year one has the highest number. Therefore, the processing machine should be replaced every year. So I would then say the processing machine should be replaced every year, considering the highest annual equivalent value of 24,498,680 naira. That's it. That's the end of the question. In the B part of the question, you have to itemize the major assumption made in your calculation above. So you can talk about cash flow. So all those assumptions you have in your notes. So just mention few of them. All right, and then you are good to go. So that's it. That's the end of the question. That's the end of the question. All right. So one of the assumption is that, of course, I'll talk about cash flow by saying that it is assumed that the cash flow estimate is realistic and will occur at the end of each year. Then you can talk about operating efficiency, which means that the operating efficiency of the assets are similar. Okay. Then you can talk about taxation and inflation. That is, the taxation and inflation are ignored. And then you can also talk, number 4, you can talk about qualitative factors. So you can say that the qualitative factors, including pollution, safety, and quality of the machine are ignored. Okay, are ignored. So these are some of the assumptions that you can talk about. So if you like, you can also include the assumption that the replacement will continue for the foreseeable future. Okay, and say that the replacement will continue for the foreseeable future. All right. So if every cycle, like this case in our calculation, the processing machine should be replaced every year. So which means that to infinity, every year the company will be changing the processing machine. That's implication. All right. So that's that. So with 12, 15 marks, you are good to go. You pocket it, go to the next one. Okay. So this is it. That's the end of the class. Let me know if you have any question for me. And then again, sorry for the fact that my network was so bad today and which disrupted the class. So it's what it is. Yes, any questions so far so that we can close the class for today? All right then. So if there's no other question, thank you guys for your patience.